That's stereo.
I was gonna say, okay.
Yeah,
I was just making sure it wasn't like. Sorry, I got you.
Yeah.
My audio engineer brain is on now. So I'm like, if I can check it for errors and shit.
No, it's good that you did that because otherwise I would have recorded with the microphone on the.
That would have been jacked.
That would have fucking sucked balls. You bring all this shit, and I could have done it on my fucking iPhone. All right, so let's get going here. Welcome to another episode of the Floro Podcast. I am Edgar OtraVez, and today I am at Hurricane Brazilian Jiu Jitsu out in Cleveland with John Lawrence, who has been very kind with inviting me out here and take classes with him and experience his school, man. So how you doing, John?
So typical Tuesday morning, but last night was dope.
Oh, dude,
it was a good session.
Dude, that it was really enlightening, that class, and I have a lot to say about how you lead class.
Yeah, we almost nerded out last night after. Started talking. I was like, this is. It's like we could set the mics up right now and talk for 2 hours.
Oh yeah, I was like ready too, and I was like, oh, can we do it now? Can we do it now?
It would have been good. That would have been.
Yeah.
My family would not have appreciated that.
Oh.
3-hour podcast after practice.
Yeah, I was just like, where are you? Are you coming home? I'm podcasting.
I could do 3 hours too.
Yeah.
Easy.
Well, it's funny because I took the class last night with you, and then I took the class with Travis this morning.
He's good, man.
And he's so smart. And it was great because afterwards he nerded out too. He was talking about Gio and that Mikey incident and all that stuff. And I was just like, oh yeah, I know about that. Like, I
actually am not familiar with that.
I guess something happened with I forget the guy's last name, but Mikey.
Mikey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gio from 10 Planet.
Oh yes, he's a gem.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess there was some conflict between them and words and stuff. But it was funny because he was talking about all this jiu-jitsu stuff, and he's in all of it. He seemed to like he was talking about all these techniques, and then on top of that, all the social drama that was going on. I was like, wow, you're in it.
He's in the game.
He's living it, you know. So like, I really appreciate talking to him. It was great. You know.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, but one of the things I wanted to ask you is I really like one of the reasons I came out was I wanted to experience the school for myself, because on the last podcast you talked about how you don't do the traditional warm up. Yeah. And so after having that discussion with you, I started leading classes a little different when I teach. But I also felt like it's a little pretentious, right? Like I haven't experienced it for myself, and I'm trying to kind of do what you're doing.
Which part of it? Like just telling people you're not going to warm up?
Yeah, well, not warming up, and warming up kind of a different way. So like one of the things I started doing was because the class I teach is a no-gi class. So we were working. So typically what I do is we start with like a stand-up and no takedowns, just working the hand fighting, the tie up, all that stuff, and trying to get around, get the legs, stuff like that. Because at least at the school I'm at, typically we don't work that stand-up no-gi stuff. So I wanted to kind of get everybody kind of used to that kind of game and the things you can do: bear hugs, single legs, whatever, you know. Yeah. And then, like you said in the podcast, ramp it up a little bit, right? But last night coming here, I saw how you did it. Like you did a technique. You basically started with technique. Yeah, essentially. Essentially, which is very cool. Like it's very interesting because like nobody's warmed up. You bow. You start with technique, and it's like this is what we're doing when you're doing a series. I guess for the whole month, right?
Depending on the material, could be 2 weeks, but 3 weeks seems to be the sweet spot right now for everything.
3 weeks.
Yeah, a month gets to be. I don't know why. It's just like that's when we start to feel like we've like exhausted the not only the technical information, but also people's attention span and that interest that matters too. That matters a lot.
Absolutely, right. But yeah, I think that's a good point to make because typically in some schools, it's like, this is the technique of the week, and every class is centered around that. And I was having a discussion with one of your students. He's like, sometimes I can't make it to every class. Right. Sometimes I come once a week. Sometimes I'll come 3-4 times a week,
Yeah.
And to only come in once, experience that technique, and then not get to practice it again for another 6 months or whenever you decide that you want to bring it back.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So it's very cool that you kind of sit on this set of techniques with new twists to them, right?
Yeah, definitely new twists.
You're adding new components. You're basically you study the system, you bring the system out, and it's like, okay, these are the different parts of the system, And last night you were working the Kimura grip.
Yep.
And so you have put together or researched or however this system for the Kimura grip. Yep. And you start in a very specific spot, which I also found interesting. You're not going like, okay, this is, you start from the mount. This is like, no, you started on your side with this Kimura grip. I was just like, what?
Well, so the interesting part about that is, so if you were like a brand new student coming in, that's exactly what your experience would be. And you've already got background knowledge too, so that makes it interesting. But yeah, a new person walks in, and they see us. They're like, we're already laying down on our sides in the Kimura trap position, and they're kind of going like, well, like, why are we starting here? And unfortunately, the way that we do our units now, the one disadvantage, and it's not major, but the one disadvantage is that if you are a brand new student coming in and you come in sort of in the wrong place in that 3-week cycle, you really are just getting thrown into the water.
Yeah.
But if you make it through a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then when we start the next unit, we do start like from the ground up. So we started our Kimura unit just from side control and just how to set up pinning the arm down from side control, and then the proper mechanics to just finish a basic side control Kimura. So like that's where we started the unit. But now you came on the beginning of week 3 where we've got all of this like foundation already built. We've already like built up to that point. But yeah, just starting there would be oddly confusing for everybody,
But it doesn't seem like you have any problem with like keeping students. Like
no.
Last night was a big ass class.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
No,
it wasn't. That was a big ass class.
No, but I'm saying like in a relative sense, like
for you,
like
yes.
Some of the big sessions that we have here, like last night was, I would say, probably average.
Oh wow.
Maybe for August it was big, because August, like I think I was telling you, August is always super slow. People sense that like the summer's almost over, so they want to get out on their boats and they want to like go to the dinner on the patio, and they definitely skip a lot of jiu-jitsu in August. So
I think that's pretty typical, right?
Yeah,
but
for
like
sure.
But even this morning it was a big ass class for a morning class, because I mean in Chicago it's unusual to have a big size class for a morning class.
Yeah.
Typically it's guys like when I first started training.
I remember, yeah.
You were teaching the morning class, and it was usually about 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
A big class for a morning class was like 7, 8 guys.
Yeah. What was this morning like? 12, 15? What was it?
Something like that.
Somewhere
Yeah.
There
There was a lot of people, and it was
advanced no-gi too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was plenty of people. I actually, it was a little nicer than last night. The gentlemen, the people that I trained with here, they were a little closer to my age, a little bigger.
Sure.
And so probably dads, So I'm like, oh, these guys are my speed,
Yeah.
And so my experience this morning was not that last night was bad, but like the rolling part of it,
No, I get it,
was more enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure.
I wasn't worried about this young buck trying to like, kick my ass.
Yes.
Everybody was my speed.
Well, that session's invitation only. Like anything that says advanced on our schedule, like you've got to like go through me. You've got to like text me and be like, hey, can I?
Which I did.
This? Well, no, you don't need to.
Well, I did anyway.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was like my experience here was pretty cool. Like I mean, this place is beautiful too, man.
Thanks.
Like it really, I mean, it's outstanding. It's I mean, like the decor, the size of the mats, the dope ass mural, everything is like, well, like you really did you get someone to like design the place, or did you just kind of just put this stuff together to your taste?
No, I designed it.
Really?
Yeah. So I've got like maybe like a genetic predisposition to this because my mom is she's like an interior designer, she's pretty legit.
Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, putting looks together is kind of like something I guess it kind of comes natural. And then also like a lot of the graphic design, not all of it, but some like for our t-shirts, for our logo and stuff. I did all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So I like putting creative stuff together.
Yeah, and you do a lot of that kind of stuff just in your marketing of the school and stuff like that too.
I do, but as far as the place actually coming together, you know, where I'm about to go down right now to my trainer, like at the other end of the plaza, he's actually occupying our old location. Yeah. And when we put this place together, this was actually a bank. Like it was a big bank that was unoccupied, and at least for the demo portion of it, like we ripped out the bank. Like see how this is like all like wide open right now? Yeah. There were offices and rooms and like reinforced walls because it was a bank. So like you can't just have like a normal wall because the guys will like, you know, just like like break through the walls and steal all your money. But like the students like came out in force and like helped us demo. Like it was, you know, it was, we had like a couple nights, we had like 10 or 12 people in here just ripping studs out.
That's fucking awesome.
It was really cool. It was,
you know, I could see, I can understand the type of work that you probably have to go through to get a school like this ready, but
I love it. Like, yeah. I could, there's a part of me that could just build new school after new school, like with my own hands. Yeah. Just month after month. Like I think I would enjoy just doing that. Like in a parallel universe, just like building like businesses and like spaces and things, kind of like what my mom does. Yeah. You know? It's just, it's oddly satisfying.
That would be awesome. Like John, the jiu-jitsu school designer.
Well, when COVID hit, it was weird. So like a really pervasive attitude in our culture right now is like, if you have a problem, like you just put your head down and you fucking work through it. Like you just, right. Like this is a pretty popular, like, you know, meme. Nobody cares, work harder. Yeah. That type of thing. But COVID was unique because that was literally impossible for me to do. Like there was no work harder, because working harder for me involves teaching more classes, getting more students, studying more jiu-jitsu, and then passing. Like I couldn't do any of that. Yeah. So like stuff like this desk here. Yeah. I was just like, well, the only thing I can do is just make the school physically better. And in part, this was like probably me dealing with like the stress of being out of business for a while. So yeah, I did stuff like built this desk, built this like little area over here for the kids to play in, like just stuff like that. There's a lot of like these little details. Yeah. I love the little desk that you have here for kids. Yeah. You got books on it. You got crayons in the jar. Yeah. But also you got the little seats and stuff. Those are hard to find too. Really? Yeah. So you went out and looked for that. I went out and looked for stools of that height to like match kids of a certain age. Like it was very specific. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Like I'll go down like weird rabbit holes with stuff like that sometimes, where I'm just cruising like on Wayfair looking for like the perfect chair to like put in that corner. Obviously more so over COVID. Now I don't have time to do shit like that. But over COVID, it was the only thing I had time to do. Like this area that we're sitting in right now, this was not, it wasn't this. It was something like, I would say, that was just a bit less evolved. Okay. So I kind of touched it up a little bit. Yeah, and then Mat Space 2, which I don't even think we went down to. Oh, downstairs? No, I haven't seen downstairs yet. You got to check that out before you go. Yeah, I want to see it. It's cool, but that was another, that was another COVID evolution when we were closed, and I was just like, let's just build some stuff. That's amazing that you built that separate space too. Like I thought, like you weren't just thinking about making it bigger. You were also thinking about, if we can get students back in here,
And correct me if I'm wrong. If we can get students back here, how can we make this safer during COVID?
Yeah, I called my dad. And I was like just talking to him about like being out of business at the time, because that was the time where we voluntarily shut down like early before it was like state mandated or city mandated, and then we had no choice. They like we were literally legally shut down because we were a gym. And I was talking to my dad on the phone. He's like, "What are you going to do?" And I go, "I'm just going to double down. Like I'm just going to reinvest even like more money into the school, and I'm just going to assume
that you're coming back.
That would in I don't know how many months, but we're going to come back, and then we're going to have more people than ever." So that instead of like pulling back, I built like another mad space. And then after I built it, I was like, "Oh shit, I hope this works."
Well, if you build it, they will come, right? That's the hope.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
That was a double down.
That's ballsy. That's really fucking ballsy.
I would like to pretend like it was, but again, I think that I was just
looking for shit to do.
I was like coping. I was just like, what can I do that's not nothing?
Yeah.
You know, what do I do? I can't. The only thing I could have done was like teach private lessons. You know what I mean? Like,
and even
for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
That would have been, I would have done it if it came to that.
Yeah.
But, you know. Yeah.
So, I want to talk a little more about jiu-jitsu, and one of the things that I've been wanting to ask you since the last time, and I asked you last night, but I'm asking here again for the podcast. A lot of instructors, and this is not a judgment on anybody. I mean, it's just, you know, I just think that what you do, you seem to excel in what you do, and I wanted to know, how is it that you're coming up with this new stuff, right? And if you're willing to share that with the podcast, but
what are you referencing specifically?
Well, I'm referencing like how is it that you have, because like you're not teaching the stuff you taught me anymore.
Oh, sure.
You got new stuff coming in. You got new techniques, new ideas, new positions, all this stuff. And I asked you last night, and I want to ask again for the podcast, how are you coming up with this stuff? Are you just making it up yourself? Are you researching, studying tape? What is it that you're looking at? In
reference to the newer, we can talk about some of the stuff that you said, like I taught you, but in reference to the newer stuff, it really is just a matter of not having an ego and not assuming that like the jiu-jitsu that you learned is like the end all be all, that it's not the best, not the best stuff out there. And then you just look at what the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world are doing relative to your own style. And then, I mean, it really is as simple as buying their instructionals and supplementing my knowledge with theirs. And and that's not a groundbreaking thing. It's just, I think you get a lot of students who are willing to do that. Like, I know I have a lot of students who have bought like John Danaher's instructionals, or like Keenan Cornelius's instructionals or whatever. And I don't think that's very uncommon for students to like reach out and do that, but they almost do it like, in certain circumstances, I feel like they almost do that in secret. They're kind of like, they've got this DVD, but they're not really talking about it in class because like they're learning from like another black belt. They're not learning from their instructor.
Yeah.
I do think that for the most part, it's rare, and I'm just guessing, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming it's rare for somebody who's like head instructor at a gym to openly study other black belts stuff and then actively integrate it into their current curriculum. Yeah. Because I'm not throwing away all the jiu-jitsu I learned. In fact, like sometimes when I watch these instructionals, I'm like, oh, we do that. Yeah. But maybe this grip is different or that grip is different. But then sometimes I'll watch an instructional and it is just an absolutely revolutionary change where I'm like, well, I have to tell my students the way that I used to teach you this was inferior to the way that I. And you have done that. Oh yeah. Wow. And you just have to do it like with the understanding that like everything evolves. Jiu-jitsu is not exempt from that. Yeah. And you can't have an ego and pretend like you never fuck anything up. Yeah. You know, like I've definitely taught stuff I taught 2 or 3 years ago. Certain things, not a lot of things, but certain things I've completely abandoned. I've told my students like that is not the best way to do it. I have a new way that I feel like is the best way to do it. And then in 2 or 3 or 5 years, if there's a new way that's better, I'm going to shift gears and, you know, and do that. That
is, I'm just impressed with your honesty. You know, and
well, there's a level of embarrassment that is associated with it when you tell a room full of 30 people, like, hey, you know, when I showed you this, you know, 2 years ago, well, because I've had people ask me, they've literally said, you know, when you showed me this last time, like you said, A, B, C. Yeah. And they go, why are we doing it this way? And I go, because this way's better. Yeah. And they're like, they look at me like I'm an alien, you know, I'm like, 'cause this is better now. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you're like, how do you handle that part of it? It's just like, well, you know, you taught me something wrong. I've been doing it the wrong way.
I don't think it's not a wrong way because even still, like wrong isn't the right word to use. It's that.
You said inferior. There's a
so
more.
So let me expand on that. Like inferior across a broad range of opponents. So like the move that I taught 2 years ago is going to work against like a certain range of skill sets. Like it's maybe going to work against people who've been training for 0 to 18 months, or maybe what if you want to do it by rank, like you know, it would be like white belt through purple belts. Yeah. But then we've got these movements that are in some ways just as easy to learn, just as simple, but they would apply to the entire range of grapplers that you're going to run into. Those to me are like, and I'm air quotes here, those are the right techniques. You know, I want to do the techniques that work against anybody. So the Kimura I taught you 2 years ago is going to work against a ton of people. It's definitely not wrong. Yeah. The new one is just going to work better against a broader range of opponents. And you have to just be comfortable being honest about that. Yeah. You know, that's a great point, because one of the things that's sticking out in my mind right now is when you and I rolled, that double leg pass smash thing that I do works on everyone. Everyone. I can even do it to some people in the guard. I know. I'll be in the guard. I'll just wrap their legs, open the guard that way, kick my legs out, pass. So to describe for the people who are listening, like what you're essentially doing, the concept is like you're wrapping both your arms just above my knees, sprawling so I have no foothold on you, and then you're just sort of picking a side, and then whenever I overreact, you switch sides. Yes, you're going to go to the other side.
Yeah, and usually I try to go to the back. Right. Because if I can go to the back, and then I can wedge myself up against their back, and then either sit back into a back take, or maybe go to like a triple attack. You know, as you know, as we used to call it. I don't know what you call it here now, but. Are you talking about like that gift wrap position? Yes, the gift wrap position. So last night, for the first time, I was just like, why the fuck isn't this working? It works on everyone. You know, I've done it to everyone, and it didn't work on you last night. And I was a little frustrated, but amazed, because one of the things that you did in the middle of it, because at one point I got close. And then you kind of like stood up almost. Yeah. And you got on all fours.
Got to the knees and then turned back over.
And then turned back over, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And I don't know. It's such a small thing, you know? Yeah. But the disadvantage is because of where I live currently, I don't get to roll with black belts, right? Sure. You know, I roll with browns and below, and to see that just nullified was just like, this is fucking awesome. You know, like that piece. Yeah. I'm gonna take home, and I thought about it all last night. I don't know if you. I know it's not a big deal to you, but it is. It is, but it's a big deal to me, because I was sitting there, it's just like, how did he do this? Like and I even tried it. When it was like because you eventually got the tap, and you
did it well.
And I tried to mimic exactly what I saw the opportunity. I was like, I'm going to try it, you know, see if I can do it, and see if I get the same feeling. Yeah, no, and it was the same feeling. So like to give like a mental visual representation
for anybody listening. So the idea is, again, you're on top, you've got both of my legs wrapped up between your arms, and then you've killed my legs at that point. Like I can't get my feet on you effectively, and I'm on my back, and you're trying to work your way around, like you said, like my backside typically, so you can get into a side control, like a pinning position. Now, as we came up, and this concept that we're about to describe, like this is one of the newer concepts that I teach my students that I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I wasn't teaching this way, right? Mm-hmm. So the concept is like, the old concept would have been, as the person walks around, you turn to your side, you'll get a set of frames. I would either, as the bottom person, I would either put my hands on your like neck and your shoulders, or your neck and your hip, and I would attempt to hip escape out of your control and then like get back to a guard position. Yes. Which I'm assuming is probably the reaction that is typical.
That is the very, very typical. And usually I can just smash, like if they give me too much trouble, I'll lift the legs, smash. Even if I can get around the legs, I'll flip to the other side, like upside down, right, with my legs towards his head, right, which is one thing I didn't get to do because you were propping yourself up and weren't giving me the aerial space for it.
Yeah, I was elevated.
Yeah.
So the newer reaction in this position, and I know this is like really technical, so sorry for
I'm fucking loving it.
Non-jiu-jitsu crowd, but so what we focus on instead is, if you do get into a scenario like that, and there are many scenarios that follow that theme. You've got side smash passes, which is like a family of what you were working, like double leg wrap passes, which is a family of what you were working, but then also weave passes, like from knee shield, will follow the same theme, where if you can get up on your bottom elbow and then consequently up to your bottom hand, and also use your other arm to frame the person away. We put a lot of emphasis on, if you feel like you're about to get pinned, finding a way to get to a base where you can actually wrestle up to base, like wrestle up to your knees or wrestle up to your feet. So in that one instance where you felt like you almost got by, I just used the frames that I had to get off my butt, put my knees on the mat, and then once my knees are on the mat, I can make a ton of space and then sit back to guard if I feel like I can't get up to my feet.
It was very deceptive because I almost felt like I could take your back from there.
Right, exactly.
And as soon as you turned towards me, that's what I went to. I abandoned what I was doing.
Try to jump on my back.
And I tried to like climb up your back. I mean, I wasn't like letting go of the legs. Right. I was just trying to jump on your back. Yeah. And it didn't work. And I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah. You know, it's just like I had him. He exposed his back. I should have been able to take his back. And I just felt like maybe I wasn't fast enough. I don't know if that was the case. Is there something else that I'm missing?
No, it's not like that's the like,
because you showed your back for a second. Yeah. Maybe a half a second.
And the only reason I'm doing it is so I can make space to turn back into it. In this instance, it was butterfly guard. Yeah. I just kept turning back into like a butterfly guard variation. That's a scenario that like we've mapped out, and like I've obviously been through that like quite a few times against different passing styles. And the bottom line is, and we talked about this a little bit, if you're not able to control my bottom arm, like my post arm, you're going to have, I'm not saying you won't have success. There are ways to have success there, but you're going to work really hard. Yeah. And I'm not going to work very hard at all.
I was working very hard.
Right. And
I was breathing heavy, and you're like, hey man, what's up with your breath?
We can talk about that. But I was like, all I have to do is like, I can just, so I don't know if the cameras are going to pick this up, but assuming you're here and you're pushing in, so I would get that patch grip behind your back, or in some cases like no gi.
Why don't we? You want to go?
Yeah. So here, so like in the context of no gi. Yeah. So if no gi is actually a good way to do this, because no gi, what I'll do is I'll get a collar tie, and then like guys push here. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna get my collar tie here, and I'm gonna drop this forearm here into this space, right? So now, but I'd be useless if I was pushing here, because I'm committed to this bottom elbow. Yeah. So I'm always frame on the top side, either here or here, normally here. Yeah. And then I build to my elbow. Yeah. Now look at this structure that I've built. So I've got my post elbow, and then I've got this dropped across your neck. So as much as you want to drive into me, like I'll just slide.
I can't. Yeah.
So it's a very strong structure. And then my next step is to use the elbow in the frame to just get my knees out just a little. Like you'll still hold them tight, but I can that little scoot. Now I'm up to my hand. If you try to drive into me, at worst case scenario, what's going to happen is I'll drop back to my elbow.
Yeah.
I'll hip escape again and get back into my hand.
The problem with this too is like if I let go and try to break you down,
it's too far.
Not only that, but I lose the legs.
Right.
I'm gonna lose the legs unless I have the gi. Then I can hold on the gi pants.
Right.
But I still run the danger of losing this. Like even with the gi pants, there's a little play, and you can do more.
And now wrap my legs up tight. And now the thing you talked about with the back exposure, like heavy can be tight.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have my arm here, it's pretty easy for me to just turn my hips. And then this is that scenario we got in where you try to go to my back.
Yeah, and then I try to.
I sit back. I sit back to guard. As soon as you try to climb to my back, I'll sit back to guard again.
And it sucked because then I'm in this position where it's just like, fuck, now I gotta wrap the legs again.
All the way through.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main concept is if there's no partner here, it's just my legs are wrapped. I'm here, either framed, or in this case, the you can punch here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Most guys are here, and they try to hip escape, which just commits this onto the mat.
Yeah.
But in this case, frame. This is the hard part. Don't do this, because you put yourself at risk of shoulder injury.
Okay.
But it's easier to do sometimes. You'll windshield wipe out, then you'll curl yourself up. But I've jacked my shoulder like that.
Okay.
Here, what I do instead is I hard ab crunch. This is the hardest part. Then it gets my elbow. Pull my elbow under my shoulder. Now once I'm here, get my hand away, because I don't want you to grab my hand. And then it's just a little here. Turn.
Yeah, I thought it was genius.
Because at that point, I'm back at square one. I'm going to have to either fight the butterfly guard, maybe try to get one of those hard smashes where you kind of like trap the butterfly guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, trap one of the legs on the butterfly and pass that way. Or I have to like rewrap, fight, put the legs back together again, expend all that energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
And then in the meantime, you worked really hard.
I worked really hard.
Time.
It was just like one of the thoughts I was having is just like I should have switched to something a more fluid guard passing attempt. Like I should have like maybe broke off and started trying to pass standing instead of trying to smash, because that wasn't working. And instead, I was like, this is supposed to work, and I was stuck there. You know?
I actually thought, I'm a big fan of people being stubborn through like certain passing attempts.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would. It was just your pressure was good. Your leg wrap was good. In fact, every time the leg wrap would get undone, you had a very high skill level of like finding it again. So it's clearly like a position that you enjoy.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so like that part was pretty obvious to me. It was just the missing detail of the emphasis on like getting to the person's bottom arm very quickly. You don't need both legs wrapped up if you get to the bottom arm, because you just lay your weight on the legs, you pull the bottom arm, and the person is, especially in the gi where you've got all these different handles, they're horribly pinned.
Yeah.
It's a bad position.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, especially if the person's being a jerk. Then I'll just smash them a little bit in the stomach.
Sure.
Like I'll go ahead and just drop a little shoulder pressure right in the stomach, and they're like, "Oh, what a shit," you know.
I think in jiu-jitsu, the concept of like, we have this, jiu-jitsu is a game in some ways, and we've got these unspoken rules in the game. And one of the unspoken rules is that I absolutely hate, I just want to be clear, is that if you're on the bottom, you play on the bottom. If you're on the bottom, you play guard. Like, oh, I'm on my back, my friend. You smash me, I'm gonna play guard a little bit. Like it's an unspoken agreement that people have. And so one thing we do here is we put a lot of emphasis on wrestling from the feet, but also the concept that if you're not successful on your back, forcing the person to keep you down through wrestling. So they've got two choices. They either have to like really commit to pressuring into you and keeping you down, which you can get some very like interesting action reaction moves off of that, or they have to let you up, and then you're out of that position where you weren't having any success.
So you're talking about basically just standing up.
Yeah, just say like you're in the closed guard. Like if you're in closed guard, yeah, I even see this at competitions. The person in bottom closed guard is having no success.
And he stays there.
There's no sign that he's going to have any success. And I've been in these scenarios where you feel like you're not going to have any success. and they're just content to just continue to try to throw up arm locks and triangles and sweep attempts. Whereas if you have the basic foundation of a technical stand-up, which I'm sure, you know, now we're going back to fundamentals here.
Yeah.
Same structure that I built against you just there. One hand frames some part of the upper body, neck, shoulder, back. I build up to my elbow, a hip escape, I build up to my hand, and I get up to my feet. So I would use the exact same movement pattern that I just used over there on the mat when we were demoing to just get out of closed guard.
You seem to have like a vocabulary already, like movement patterns, all these words that you use. Is this like the shorthand that you use with your students? Is this something that you're cognizant of as you're like teaching classes? Like, I'm making sure that I use the language that I always use for certain things. Because I mean, there's always a name for stuff, right? But you have like phrases for a collection of movements.
I'm definitely not perfect with the language. Part of that is the fault of the history of jiu-jitsu. They have not done the same job that judo has done, and judo has also not been perfect in this way. But like, we don't have this nomenclature. Like, we don't have, you know, like arm lock in judo, jujigatami. Everybody calls it jujigatami, right? Triangle, you know, I think I don't know if judo uses it, but like the senkaku is the Japanese name.
Okay.
So one thing Danaher has done that's pretty interesting is he's brought in all this like Japanese nomenclature, and he's trying to unify the way that we all talk about moves in jiu-jitsu. Some people say arm lock, some people say arm bar.
Yeah.
You know, you get. You
have side control. You have 100 kilos.
Side control, 100 kilos, side mount. Some people call
mount.
it, which used to drive our instructors absolutely bonkers.
Oh,
you know.
Yes.
But,
he hated that.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing is I try to even more now than ever. I try to show people that I try to teach like in concepts. So that technical stand-up is a great example where you're not just gonna use that to get off the ground. You're not just gonna use it as a warm-up drill. Anytime you want to get to your feet, whether it's bottom, you know, like a bottom smash position, bottom closed guard from a wrestling scenario, trying to teach it as a broad concept. Trying to teach triangles as a broad concept, where anytime you have you have the head and one arm involved in some sort of arm or leg entanglement, you have an opportunity to hit a choke. That theme repeats itself not just with the legs, but with the arms as well.
Okay.
So I really like teaching in themes. I really like teaching in concepts, showing individual moves, you know, like here's an Americana from mount. I mean, we do that too, but like, I also like to show that when you grip, I like to call it a figure four grip. When you grip a figure four grip, you know, specifically when the hand is facing the head, this is an Americana, but you're gonna do universal things with this grip all the time. It's always gonna be thumbless. You're always gonna torque your grips, and then you're always gonna move the hand in some way in relation to the shoulder. It's either gonna be down for the Americana or up in the case of the Kimura. So like just repeating themes: hand in relation to the shoulder, torquing the grips, no thumbs, that type of thing.
Hand relation.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's again the vocabulary that you're using.
I'm really big on concepts now.
Okay.
People who get really good at jiu-jitsu, they seem to be like concept based learners. That's what I find.
Well, that's who is it? The Gracie University guys, Hannah Gracie, and I forget the other brother's name. But they released the 23 principles of jiu-jitsu, which is, I believe,
I heard of that. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I've been wanting to grab that, but basically, it's kind of what you're talking about. They've broken down kind of these concepts that are universal,
okay.
and they're approaching it very much in the same way as you're talking about. And I'm sure it has something to do with kind of the stuff that Danaher has mentioned, like you got to make wedges and you got to, you know, there's.
I think their video that they put out is a direct response to how insanely good and progressive Danaher's stuff is.
Oh, you think so?
I do. Yeah. I mean, it's that's just. I have absolutely no evidence to back that statement up. I saw the advertisement, I think on Instagram for it.
Yeah.
And this idea of like systematizing jiu-jitsu and having like these like modules and these systems for each position. I told you this last night, but I would absolutely repeat this in public. I think jiu-jitsu, I think martial arts and jiu-jitsu, they've passed through like several great filters. You have like Helio Gracie's generation was definitely a great filter for jiu-jitsu, and obviously that generation deserves that respect. You've got I would say like the great filter of like when competitive jiu-jitsu really started to pop. That would be early 2000s, 2010s, and then through the 2010s. I think John Danaher as an individual, I think he's going to be recognized as like another one of the great filters of jiu-jitsu. Like I don't think his instructionals are equal to any other instructionals out there on the market right now.
Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah, I think he, if he's not already, I think in the next 5, 10, 20 years, like he will be and probably should be on the Mount Rushmore of jiu-jitsu. Like
wow.
he's doing something very different than what everybody else is doing. Now, I will admit, if you go back and listen to like some podcasts we did like years ago, I said some things about him and his systems that were very skeptical. I was just wrong.
Yeah.
But he gives off such like such a strange and creepy vibe in a lot of his videos. Like he was sort of like triggering my creep radar a little bit.
Yeah. You're like, fuck this guy, I gotta smash him.
And I've seen like creepy, weird, culty jiu-jitsu instructors before, and that's very radioactive to me. So I was like, I had a very what do you call it? I had a very dismissive attitude toward him and his systems a couple of years ago. I was dead wrong.
I can't blame you for it, because I've seen videos where he's like sitting there and he's like holding a piece of paper and he's got a knife and he's got his students sitting around him and he's just cutting the paper
right
with the knife. And they're just watching him, and he's spouting some like philosophical whatever.
He's a different guy.
He's very different, and he's just sitting there cutting paper.
Yeah.
And the students are looking at him, and it's just,
I view him as like a grappling supercomputer that has done and offloaded a lot of the work that like a guy like me would have to do. Like he's processed everything. It's very clear to me too that his gym has like a very, very much like a laboratory vibe. Like my gym did when it opened. And this is not something I got from him. This is something I always wanted.
Yeah.
I would show my students a move. And there's always this moment where like an instructor shows you a move and you feel the space, or you feel a little bit of an out, or you feel like an obvious counter. And I always told my students, like, I want you to show me where those things are when I do my movements on you. And inevitably those moves pass through a fine filter and they got better. He clearly does that at his gym in New York City with his students. He brings in a move. He might bring in 5 moves. He might throw away 4, but that one that passes through the filter goes on the instructional, and it is airtight. I don't think a lot of other schools do that.
Who is it? I can't remember his name right now. Demi Maya.
Sure.
He, at one point, my understanding is he would get a room full of badasses and be like, okay, I got a fight coming up. Right. Or I got a competition. Go out, do your work at your gyms or whatever, and then come back and let me know what you find.
Okay. And
they would go out and then come back, and then they would all have new stuff and then share it in that room.
It's cool. I like that.
And I was just like, that is badass. I mean, to be a fly in the wall in that place, right? So it's It sounds similar to that, and I guess all the people that are doing jiu-jitsu, who are competing and actually like trying to not just win but like evolve, even for themselves, there is this attitude of like, I don't know everything. Please, let's try this. Let's find answers, right? And I think, I know John Danaher seems creepy, but maybe there is a little humbleness in that, because you're at the very least you're realizing I don't have all the answers and I need to find them.
Yeah.
You know?
He legitimately he threw me off in the beginning with his mannerisms and his demeanor.
I
But,
think he's, you know, he's different.
yeah.
Yeah. But like, I really find what you're doing is interesting because like you've always been like, I don't know everything. And even in when you were teaching at purple belt level, you're like, yeah, you know, some people dismiss this and some people dismiss that, but you can't say that doesn't have some kind of value, you know, that the work he put together. Like, for example, I'm speaking specifically about Eddie Bravo and his 10th Planet stuff. It's just like, you can say, you know, rubber guard sucks all you want, but you can't say that he didn't put something together in that collection of movements.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think it sucks. I think it's.
I didn't say you did.
No.
I'm just saying that there's.
I'm aware of the attitude, like of some of the attitudes, like towards his system and his style, which really truly does, like, certain aspects of his systems stand alone as like something almost entirely different than like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that like we know, even like John Danaher's stuff. At the current time, my feeling on his systems is that they require a very specialized degree of flexibility.
Yes.
That I actually don't think is even healthy to achieve.
I don't think so.
So we'll go back to movement patterns. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you think of the movement patterns that we occupy in jiu-jitsu, can I stand up?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You want to?
Can I spin the mic?
Sure.
I can do this right here. But
okay, go for it.
But you need to be able to hear what I'm saying. So like, I want you to watch all the positions that I get into right now, and try to watch for the recurring movement pattern. Okay. So when we stand up and we wrestle, we start from the feet, slap, bump, go. We're here. Okay. Look at my lower back. All right. We're here. Mm-hmm. When I go to guard, I'm here.
Yeah.
Look at my lower back.
I see.
Okay. When I pass guard, my partner's on the ground. Look at my lower back. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm like funneling myself into this this movement pattern where I'm always like bowed and hinged forward at my like lower back and shoulders all the time. His system, it really just, it takes that and it goes times 10.
Yeah.
Because now not only are you doing that, but then you're stretching your hips in your legs in a way where you're in your lower back as well.
Yeah.
I can bring my foot to my face, but I'd prefer to warm up a little bit first, right? But those guys, like they've built this hyper mobility into their lower back and their hips that I think like already overemphasizes some of the poor repetitive movement patterns that we get in jiu-jitsu. So like as part of my prehab rehab, all of my movements, like when I go to warm up for this conditioning session I'm about to do, I have to do the opposite. I do these. So I'll do iso hold in this position because it's the other side of that movement pattern that I was doing. Now my back's arched the opposite way. I'll do bridges here, and I'll hold these positions. Now, you might look at that last one and say, well, don't you do that all the time when you try to escape side control and mount? Yeah, you might do it for 2 seconds every roll, 2 collective seconds bridged into that position, but most of the rest of the round, you're going to spend in that bowed hinged position. So like when I see Eddie's stuff, I see him developing some very young, like flexible, mobile athletes that are going to have horrific lower back problems later in their life.
Well, even Eddie himself has had discs replaced.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. He had, I believe, at least one. He had one disc replaced. Okay. And I found that odd because I was just like, why not a knee? Because like one of the things that happens too is just like, if you don't have the flexibility in your hip.
Right. The knee takes the torque.
The knee takes the torque, and that will pop.
But he does have the flexibility in his hip,
yeah.
So technically his knee is always in a straight line. His upper leg his upper leg and lower leg are technically always in a straight line. Like if you don't have, you're right. If you don't have the flexibility in the hips, then like the outside of my knee has to take that bend, the ligament stretch to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But if your hip has totally free range of motion, like everything just shifts to the side for him. So
Yeah.
his knees are like probably fine.
Yeah.
It's the lower back that's what's going to take the beating.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's really that makes sense now, especially with him having that disc replaced. Because I guess he had a lot of problems for a while.
I'm sure. I mean, that's like, how much time does he spend in that position versus how much time does he spend outside of it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's his system. He teaches that, so he's probably in it all the fucking time.
And then when he drives home from the gym, he sits like this. Mm-hmm. When we're doing podcasts, we sit like this. So we spend, even as like jiu-jitsu fighters, it's like you think, well, we move around a lot and like we're really healthy. It's like we spend more time in this position than probably most people do. We spend a lot of time here, a lot of time under like stress and tension too. People smashing you.
Yeah.
So you gotta move the other way too.
Mm. And is that just to stretch the opposite side or just strengthen the back?
For me, like those are
balance?
like pretty passive strength exercises. Like I want my lower back to be stronger, but like just to get your body moving like in the opposite direction. So it would be like if we didn't train jiu-jitsu, all we trained was like bicep curls. That's all we trained. And we never did like train triceps. So we've got this motion where it's like we're overly built. Our tricep is like all stretched out and flexible because we're only ever coming this way, right? But like just neglecting the opposite range of motion. That's exactly what we're doing in jiu-jitsu. If you don't work that, I don't know what it's called. I know we're like hinging and crunching forward. I don't know what the technical term for it is. Maybe a trainer could reach out to me and tell me, but like thoracic extension, where you're like arching your chest and arching your lower back and like letting everything sort of like bend the other way. I don't know. Anyway, it's a bit of a rabbit hole.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I think that's another part that needs to be, that needs to be thought of is just the health part and posture and all that stuff.
But I hated all the hate he always got. Just to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Like I like he was doing something new and they beat the Brazilian icon Royler Gracie and like there was just so much like hate for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
He's famous for beating one guy. And I'm like, yeah,
pretty good guy.
Pretty good guy. Yeah, and with some really weird stuff, like
Yeah.
But anyway, so I know you got to cut out. Any closing remarks before we go?
I wish we had more time to talk.
I did too, man. I do too, because
I'm not trying to bail out of here, but for anybody listening, I've got to run down and do some conditioning, and if I don't warm up for 15 minutes before, it's just absolute hell. It's absolute hell anyway, but it's much worse for me. So,
well, thanks so much, John, for inviting me to your school and doing the podcast with me today. I know it was a big ask, and I really appreciate you.
It's great, man.
Giving your time. But anyway, this is Edgar OtraVez with the Flow Row Podcast with special guest or host in this case, John Lawrence over at Hurricane Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in Cleveland. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.